Inspired millionaire CEO takes autistic son on blind date. Only one girl's amazing connection changes everything. David, a dedicated millionaire CEO, strode through the suburban streets, his heart heavy with the weight of being a single father. Every step felt like a balancing act between his towering success in the corporate world and the aching desperation he felt as he navigated the complexities of raising his son, Ethan, who was on the autism spectrum. Their community buzzed with whispers, judgmental glances that felt like knives cutting into his resolve. Was his wealth enough to shield Ethan from the world's harsh perceptions? He longed for his son to connect with others, to share laughs, to feel the normalcy that every father dreams of for their child. In a moment of hope, David arranged a blind date for Ethan. He imagined a spark between his son and a girl, some magic that could help Ethan develop vital social skills. Nervous excitement crackled in the air as they parked outside a charming local diner, its warm glow beckoning them in. The walls were adorned with family photos, painted memories of countless meals shared between loved ones. But just as anticipation filled his chest like a balloon, disaster struck. The girl couldn't come. Panic clawed at David's stomach. What now? Then, like an angel appearing, Mia stepped forward. A shy local girl, known for her kindness, she had been sitting alone in a booth. I can fill in if that's okay. Her soft voice reached out to David, and he felt an immediate sense of relief as he marveled at the serendipity of it all. As the evening unfolded, something remarkable started to bloom. Laughter echoed over milkshakes and fries, their connection blossoming like spring flowers breaking through the frost. Mia shared her struggles of fitting in at school, and Ethan, with a spark in his eye, animatedly discussed dinosaurs, each word a window into his joyful world. The diner buzzed with ordinary warmth and laughter, but David couldn't shake the lurking tension. Could this truly be accepted? Would they be judged? And then, the dark cloud swept in. An onlooker, a man from the community, fixed a judgmental stare on Ethan's enthusiasm, misconstruing it as inappropriate behavior. What a shame, he muttered just loud enough for them to hear. David's heart dropped. This was what he feared. The raw injustice pulsed in his veins, and he found himself questioning everything. Had he done enough for Ethan? But Mia stood her ground, her voice ringing clear. You don't understand him. He is beautiful inside. Suddenly, murmurs surged through the diner, a ripple effect of surprise and interest. It was a pivotal moment. Would the community finally embrace understanding? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As defenses lowered and conversations sparked, hearts began to open. David watched, a tight chest giving way to hope that was so fragile, yet so vibrant. Would Ethan finally be seen for the beautiful spirit he was? The chatter began to shift from judgment to curiosity, glancing at the boy who loved dinosaurs and books, the boy who simply wanted to belong. As the night approached its end, the diner was alive with a different energy, a sense of unity, perhaps. But David and Ethan's journey was far from over. They still had to face the daunting challenge of a world that often sidelined those who were different. Would love and acceptance find a foothold in this place? Would David find his way to ensure Ethan felt worthy in a society that struggled to understand? The questions hung in the air, leaving hearts eager for resolution. As the night wore on, David's senses buzzed with relief and warmth. Mia had transformed that diner into a sanctuary, threading laughter through the air, cutting through the remnants of doubt. Ethan peeked at her, wide-eyed, as if he couldn't quite believe the evening, as if he was in a magical tale. She was not just a stranger. She had become a beacon of light for him, bridging a gap that had felt so insurmountable. David couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. His son, in the midst of his passion for dinosaurs, had found someone who listened, genuinely interested in his elaborate stories. Ethan's animated gestures and excited expressions drew in glimpses of a boy who was learning to embrace who he was, an essential turning point. Just then, The clinking of silverware broke through David's thoughts. A familiar voice chimed from the counter. An older woman, Mrs. Peterson, who ran the diner, approached their table with a warm smile. "What is going on over here? Sounds like a party." Ethan, always eager to share, looked up with bright eyes. "I've been telling Mia about how Triceratops had 3 horns." The words tumbled out in a rush, excitement sparking each syllable. Mrs. Peterson chuckled. "Ah, I love those. I went to an exhibit last year. Did you know they're actually more fascinating than their size suggests?" David felt a flicker of hope. A little conversation, a little connection. If adults could engage positively with Ethan, maybe the community could begin to change, one conversation at a time. As the night wore on, more diner patrons looked their way. Initially unsure, then slowly drawn in. He noticed the table across them, a group of high school kids, leaving judgment behind in favor of curiosity. The shift felt electric. It was the first step toward acceptance. But beneath the surface, a wave of worry persisted. David held his son's gaze, wondering whether this moment could truly carry beyond the comfort of the diner. Sharing a smile with Ethan, he whispered, "Did you have fun tonight?" "Yes," came Ethan's enthusiastic reply, the joy evident in his voice. "Mia is cool." David's heart raced with unspoiled hope. But the bitterness of previous experiences loomed in the back of his mind. Would this kindness follow them home, or would they return to the shadows of doubt and judgment? The waitress returned with the check, and David realized it was time to leave. They gathered their things, Mia sliding her phone into Ethan's hand. "Let us keep in touch," she said shyly, a hint of color streaming across her cheeks. Hearing her words, the warmth inside David grew. As they walked outside, a sudden chill seemed to sweep over the streets. The vibrancy of the diner faded behind them, leaving only the dim light of the street lamps illuminating their path. The world felt vast, yet uncertain. David glanced at Mia, who had caught a glimpse of Ethan's enthusiastic hands and heart. "What did you think?" he asked, hope mixing with trepidation. Mia took a breath, her expression steady. "I think he deserves a chance to be himself." Her words felt like a balm. But just as their laughter began to accompany their steps, echoes of the judgmental comment from earlier began to haunt David. Could they brave this journey together? Would Mia stand with them against the doubts of others? The questions kept flowing, wrapping around them like an unseen fog. David tightened his grip on Ethan's shoulder, feeling a surge of determination. As they approached their car, the night felt heavy with possibilities, both hopeful and daunting. Little did they know, the real test was yet to come as a familiar face would soon appear, stirring old worries. Could a single encounter turn the tides for Ethan, for them both? Would acceptance flourish? Or would they find themselves revisiting that weighty darkness they thought they had left behind? The answers were just a heartbeat away. The car ride home was quiet, the hum of the engine filling the silence. Ethan leaned back in his seat, a smile dancing on his lips, still buzzing from the magic of the night. Mia's laughter echoed in his ears, a sound he wanted to hold onto forever. David stole glances in the rearview mirror, watching his son bask in the warmth of newfound friendship. "Did you see how interested Mrs. Peterson was?" Ethan said suddenly, breaking the silence. "And Mia? She thinks dinosaurs are cool." David's heart swelled. "She really does, buddy. You had a great time." He smiled, but inside he battled a brewing storm. What if the outside world wasn't as accepting as Mia seemed to be? When they finally arrived home, the familiar creaks of their old house greeted them with a comforting embrace. But as David stepped inside, the walls seemed to close in, shadows creeping out of the corners of his mind. He knew he needed to be strong for Ethan, but a familiar dread gnawed at him. He thought of the whispers he'd heard, the pointed stairs. Ethan bounded ahead, eager to rush to his room and share his joy with the array of dinosaur toys that awaited him. David watched as his son flicked the light on, illuminating a mini Jurassic World. He couldn't help but chuckle as Ethan narrated his adventures to the dinosaurs as if they were listening intently. David headed to the kitchen, where the remnants of dinner were still stacked in the sink. Each dish felt heavier than the last, burdened with the weight of worries that hovered over him. Was it foolish to think Mia could bring a change? A connection? But as he washed the dishes, Ethan's laughter wafted in from the other room, piercing through his clouded thoughts. David paused, letting that sound sink in. It was pure, unfiltered joy. In that moment, he realized that if nothing else, Mia had ignited a spark in Ethan that had been flickering for far too long. "Dad," Ethan called out, excitement pouring from his voice. "Can we do a dinosaur movie marathon tomorrow? I want to show you my favorite parts." "Of course, buddy. Why don't you pick out a few?" David called back, feeling a warmth wash over him. He wiped his hands on a towel, choosing to push aside the fear that nagged in his mind. Hours later, as David tucked Ethan into bed, he marveled at the peace on his son's face. "Good night, Dad," Ethan said sleepily. "I really liked Mia." "Me too," David replied, brushing a loose strand of hair from Ethan's forehead. As he walked out, David leaned against the door frame for a moment, staring at the stars through the window. They twinkled back, distant yet vibrant, embodying the hope he wished he could grasp more firmly. But just as he turned away, there was a sudden knock on the front door. His heart sank, and a chill cascaded down his spine. Who could be visiting at this time of night? He hesitated, 1,000 possibilities racing through his mind. Was it someone from the diner? Or worse, someone from their past? With a deep breath, he opened the door, apprehension clawing at him like a relentless storm waiting to break. The figure standing before him stirred a mix of shock and unease. Would this encounter bring more challenges, or would it spark a change he had only dreamed of? David's pulse quickened as he faced the figure at the door. A tall man stood there, dressed in a crisp jacket that seemed slightly out of place in the quiet neighborhood. He had a friendly but determined look, and for a moment, the recognition flickered in David's mind like a dying bulb. "Joe." David's voice barely rose above a whisper. This was Joe, his former colleague, who had mysteriously drifted out of his life after the incident that David couldn't escape, the one that had unraveled everything he thought he knew about friendship. "Hey man, it's been a long time," Joe said, stepping over the threshold with an unexpected familiarity. It felt like an invasion of David's carefully curated space, where he tried to keep the past at bay. "What are you doing here?" David was cautious, curiosity battling against the walls he built thick over the years. "I heard about your boy," Joe replied, his eyes softening. "I wanted to check in on you guys. Heard he's really into dinosaurs." A knot formed in David's stomach as he recalled the often unpleasant gossip that followed him like a shadow since Ethan was diagnosed. Somehow, people couldn't help but discuss his son's differences. "Yeah, he is," David replied, his voice tight. Joe shifted his weight, looking past David into the cozy living room filled with toys and scattered drawings of dinosaurs. "I know it's late, and I don't mean to intrude, but I want to help," he said. "If you're willing to give me a chance." David narrowed his eyes, feeling a mixture of skepticism and hope. "Help? In what way?" "I thought we could organize something. A play date for Ethan and Mia. She's a great girl, and if you're worried about prejudice, bringing the kids together might make things easier. Besides, I've met a few families with kids like Ethan. Trust me, they'd love to meet him." David considered this. Could it be possible that Joe truly meant well? The memory of a warm laugh between colleagues came rushing back, but it was clouded with reminders of past betrayals. "What's the catch?" David asked, still guarding his heart. "No catch," Joe replied earnestly. "I love my kids too, and I want them to grow up understanding differences. We can show them that it's okay to embrace uniqueness." David hesitated, feeling the weight of his worries like stones in his pockets. Should he let Joe back into their lives? As the silence stretched, he thought of Ethan. His son, who had sparked a light in David's shadowed world, needed the chance to experience friendships without boundaries. Maybe Joe was an ally now, instead of a ghost from the past. "Okay, let us talk," David finally said, letting the door swing wide open. Joe stepped inside, relief washing over his features. Just then, Ethan peeked around the corner, a sleepy but curious expression on his face. "Is someone here, Dad?" David knelt down, warmth flooding his heart. "Yeah, buddy, it's a friend of mine. You're going to like him. Can he stay for the dinosaur movie marathon?" Ethan asked, hopeful. David looked at Joe, who nodded and smiled, a sign of goodwill. It felt like a tiny step, but a step nonetheless. "Sure, why not? We can plan that," David replied, his heart warming at the thought of all of them together. But just as they settled into the living room, an unexpected text message flashed across David's phone. He glanced at it and felt his heart plunge. It was from Mia's mother, and the message read, "Can we talk? I have some concerns. What new challenges would this call bring into their lives?" David felt an uneasy weight settle in his chest as he read the text message from Mia's mother. "Can we talk? I have some concerns." The words swirled around in his head, mixing with all his fears for Ethan. Concerns? What kind of concerns could she possibly have? "Dad, is something wrong?" Ethan's voice pulled him from his thoughts. David looked at his son, whose wide eyes searched his face for answers. He couldn't keep the worry hidden. It slipped out, a crack in his carefully maintained facade. No, buddy. Just some adult stuff." David forced a cheerfulness he didn't feel. "You want to pick a movie while we wait for Joe?" Ethan nodded eagerly and darted back toward the shelf filled with dinosaur films. David turned his attention back to Joe, who had taken a seat on the couch, his body language relaxed but his eyes alert, taking in the atmosphere. "Everything okay?" Joe asked quietly, leaning forward. "Yeah, just a message from Mia's mom," David replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "She wants to talk." Joe's expression shifted. "About what?" David shrugged, the concern bubbling up again. "I don't know. Something about Ethan, I guess." Joe frowned slightly. "Did she mention anything before? With the kids?" David shook his head. "No, and I didn't think there would be problems. I mean, they're just kids, right? Kids can be tough, David. Especially when differences come into play," Joe said gently. "But there's also a chance she just wants to understand." David's stomach churned. He wanted to believe that. He wanted to believe that there could be understanding, acceptance. He wanted Ethan to have friends just like any other boy, not to be judged or whispered about behind his back. As Ethan returned with a handful of DVDs, holding 2 movies, David felt a flicker of hope. "Dad, do you want to see Jurassic Adventure or Dino Discovery?" Ethan asked, his excitement infectious. David smiled at his son's enthusiasm. "How about Jurassic Adventure? It sounds epic." "Yay!" Ethan cheered, jumping onto the couch beside Joe. David watched them, feeling a warmth spread in his chest. This was what he wanted for Ethan, a chance to just be himself, a kid who loved dinosaurs. As the movie started, the room filled with the sounds of roaring dinosaurs and Ethan's delighted laughter. David's phone buzzed again, bringing him back to reality. It was Mia's mother again. "Can we meet at 10 a.m. tomorrow?" A knot of anxiety twisted in his stomach. He glanced at Ethan, completely engrossed in the screen, blissfully unaware of the looming uncertainty. "Okay," David typed back, knowing he had to face whatever concerns Mia's mother had. "Can I invite Mia?" Ethan suddenly interjected, glancing at Joe. "She can come over for the next movie." David felt his heart squeeze. He didn't want to let Ethan's optimism be crushed by the doubts he had. He looked at Joe, who nodded encouragingly. "Why not?" David replied, trying to mask his own fears. "Let us invite her." Just then, the doorbell rang again. David jumped, a sense of dread washing over him. Was it Mia's mother already? He shot a quick look toward Joe, who raised an eyebrow, curious but also understanding. "I'll get it," David said, walking to the door with hesitant steps. As he opened it, his heart raced. But it was only the mailman, handing over a package with a small, colorful sticker on it. David took it, already feeling the slight relief but still fighting against the persistent anxiety gripping him. As he turned back to the living room, he knew tomorrow could either shatter everything he was building or be the bridge to something more beautiful for Ethan. David took a deep breath, holding the package close, wondering just how much was at stake. What would tomorrow's conversation bring? Would Mia's mother lessen his fears or only amplify them? David settled back onto the couch, gripping the small package as if it held all the answers to his fears. The bright colors of the sticker seemed to mock the anxiety swirling in his chest. He took a deep breath, focusing on the movie and the sounds of joy that enveloped him. Ethan was completely absorbed, the wide, shining eyes glued to the screen as paper dinosaurs roared to life around the characters. For a moment, David managed to push away the daunting thoughts spiraling in his mind. But as soon as the screen went dark for a commercial break, the uncertainty crept back in. "What's in there, Dad?" Ethan's voice sliced through the silence. He pointed at the package, curiosity written all over his face. "Oh, just some mail," David said, forcing a smile. "Nothing exciting." Joe leaned back in his seat, crossing his arms. "You sure about that?" Why don't you open it? The invitation hung in the air. David felt hesitant, unsure if he could divert his attention away from the looming meeting with Mia's mother. Yet, as he looked at Ethan's eager anticipation, he knew that a small distraction would be good for both of them. All right, let us see what we've got. He tore open the package with a nervous excitement that felt surreal. Inside was a dinosaur-themed book, intricate illustrations vying for his attention. Whoa, Dad, can we read it together? Ethan beamed, bouncing a little on the couch. Sure thing, David replied, the warmth muddling his worries. Let us check it out. But first, let us finish the movie. Ethan pouted for a fraction of a second, classic kid behavior, but quickly shrugged it off, diving back into the adventure on screen. As the movie continued, David felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This, right here, was what mattered. Moments spent laughing, the simple pleasures of a shared experience. That was what he wanted for Ethan. The ability to connect with other kids, to build lasting friendships built on mutual interests, and to be accepted without question. As the credits rolled, Ethan stood up excitedly and stretched. That was awesome. Can we get Mia to watch it next time? Of course, David said, a smile breaking free from his previous tension. The thought made his heart swell. But just then, the shadow of Mia's mother's looming concerns flickered across the edges of his mind, blotting out the joy for a moment. Ethan, can we talk for a sec? David asked, kneeling down to his son's eye level. You know how tomorrow might be a little different with Mia's mom coming over, right? Ethan's brows knitted together in confusion. Different how? Is she upset? David hesitated, searching for the right words. Well, she just wants to talk about some things, about you and Mia. It doesn't mean anything bad, but I just want you to be ready in case things get a little awkward. Ethan nodded, catching on to his father's tone. David could see the wheels turning behind his son's eyes. There was a momentary flash of worry, but it faded quickly, overtaken by the naive determination of a child. Okay, Dad. I just want to have fun, me too, bud. A small laugh escaped David at the sheer innocence of his son. We'll make sure the day is fun, I promise. As they settled in for the night, David tucked Ethan into bed. The warmth of his son's small body against the cool sheets made him smile. Good night, Dad. I can't wait for tomorrow. Good night, buddy. Neither can I, David replied, turning off the light and heading to the door, but just before he closed it, he paused, struck by an unshakable nagging sense linked to the upcoming meeting. Tomorrow's conversation was more than just a chat. Maybe it would reveal a new path for Ethan. Maybe it would shatter his illusions. All that loomed in uncertainty as the door creaked shut behind him. It wouldn't just be about Mia, it would be about acceptance. Would they be able to embrace Ethan just as he was? Would they see the wonder in his mind rather than focus on the labels? David paced the living room, mind racing fast as the clock ticked closer to midnight. The question loomed large, one that wouldn't let go. Was he ready to fully embrace whatever revelations awaited them tomorrow? David tossed and turned in his bed, the shadows of worries dancing around him like restless spirits. Sleep seemed a distant luxury as thoughts of tomorrow spiraled through his mind. He could almost hear the ticking of the clock echoing the rhythm of his anxious heart. What if it didn't go well? What if Mia's mother couldn't see Ethan for who he truly was? Just as he had begun to drift off, a thought jolted him upright. Perhaps she would dismiss Ethan's quirks or view them only as barriers. The image of his son's bright smile flickered through his mind, and David couldn't shake the thought that Mia's mother held the power to either nurture that light or dim it forever. Morning arrived like a whisper, the sun peeking through the curtains. David's stomach turned, a mix of excitement and dread. He found Ethan in the kitchen, pouring cereal, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling around his father. Hey, champ, ready for a big day? David asked, his voice a bit too cheery for how he felt. Ethan nodded, cereal crunching as he chewed. Will Mia be here soon? I want to show her the dinosaur book. David's heart ached a little. The innocence in Ethan's voice made David wish for a magic wand that could erase tomorrow's uncertainty. Yeah, buddy. She'll be here after lunch. But remember, her mom will be coming too, okay? Okay. I'm gonna impress them both, Ethan declared confidently, puffing up his chest as if he were about to face a crowd at a talent show. With a smile tugging at the corners of David's mouth, he ruffled Ethan's hair. That's the spirit. Just be your awesome self. As the hours passed, the day felt like it was dragging. They played games and read stories. Yet beneath it all, David felt tension simmering. He could see Ethan's excitement growing, a stark contrast to his own spiraling thoughts. Finally, he heard the doorbell ring. His heart raced like it hadn't since the first days of dating. All right, deep breath, he muttered to himself, rushing to answer the door. Mia stood there, her ponytail swaying as she smiled brightly. Behind her was her mother, serene yet watchful. "Hello, David," she said, a warmth in her tone that momentarily eased his bundled nerves. "Hi, welcome. Come in. We were just about to do some activities," David said, motioning them inside. Ethan dashed forward, excitedly greeting Mia, pulling her towards the living room where toys were strewn about like confetti as they settled in. David could feel the careful energy in the room. The adults exchanged pleasantries, but he noticed the intent gaze of Mia's mother. It felt as if every minor detail about Ethan was being cataloged in her mind. "So, how are things going with the dinosaur book?" she ventured, as if probing for specifics. "Great. I love dinosaurs," Ethan exclaimed, unaware of the scrutiny. He began to share facts he memorized, his passion radiating off him with a fervor only kids possess. "Ethan is really into them," David interjected quickly, feeling the weight of the conversation shift. "Yes, I can see that," Mia's mother responded, a hint of skepticism lurking in her voice. "Some kids really struggle with focus and behaviors." David's heart sank a little, like a balloon losing air. He forced a smile. "He's just full of energy, right, buddy?" But Ethan's enthusiasm dimmed for a second, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. A sense of understanding seemed to dawn on him, and David felt it like an electric jolt. Was this where the acceptance he craved would falter? Before he could drum up a reassuring response, Ethan turned to Mia, seeking that spark of joy once more. "Did you see the T-Rex in the book? It's the fastest dinosaur ever." A smile returned to his son's face, brightening the room. Yet, David's pulse quickened again when he caught Mia's mother looking at him, a question lingering in her gaze. Was this just a test of character? Or was it something more profound? As laughter and chatter filled the living room, the unspoken tension swirled around them like smoke. Each moment carried weight, and every shared smile felt fragile. David's mind raced with possibilities. What did they really think about Ethan? Would they ever see him just as he was? The thought hung there, heavy and palpable. Would acceptance bloom in the eyes of those who could make or break his son's happiness? Just then, a loud knock echoed through the house. David turned towards the door, heart racing anew. Who could it be? The way forward suddenly felt tightly bound, a moment hanging in the balance. David's breath caught in his throat as he exchanged a quick glance with Mia's mother. The knock echoed again, and he felt the air in the room shift. It had weight. A pause filled with uncertainty enveloped the space, stretching their moment of gathering just a little too long. "Stay here," he said softly to Ethan, who was still animatedly discussing his dinosaur theories with Mia. He moved toward the door, bracing himself for whatever or whoever was behind it. He opened the door slowly, half expecting a surprise guest, perhaps an old friend or an unexpected family member. Instead, his face fell at the sight ahead. It was his neighbor, Linda, standing with a big grin and a tray of cookies. "Hi, David. I thought you might want to try my new chocolate chip recipe." "Thanks, Linda," he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite meet his eyes. "But I'm busy right now." "Oh, I didn't know you were having company," she chirped, glancing past him. "What a cute little gathering." "Yeah, just a play date," he replied, trying to redirect her attention. "Can you maybe come back later?" "Of course. Just wanted to share the cookies," she said cheerily, setting the tray down on a nearby side table without an invitation and bustling away, calling over her shoulder, "Let me know if you need anything." David shut the door, the sound echoing the ripple of tension that had returned to the air. He turned to find Mia's mother examining the cookies with a faint, scrutinizing frown. "That was an interesting interruption," she said coolly, her posture stiffening slightly. "Yeah, sorry about that," David said, rubbing the back of his neck. The atmosphere felt thickening, and he sensed the ticking clock of judgment. Ethan, still engaged in storytelling, didn't notice the shift. "Mia, did I tell you about the velociraptor? They're super clever and fast." He gestured animatedly, eyes wide with wonder, blissfully unaware of the tightrope of emotions surrounding their small gathering. Right? Mia's mother said, but her voice lacked warmth. Energy is one thing, but does he often get distracted? David felt the heat rise in his cheeks. He is just passionate about what he loves. It's normal for kids, he replied, trying to assert that normalcy for Ethan was valid and complete. Mia's mother raised an eyebrow. Yes, but sometimes passion needs to be tempered with discipline. David took a deep breath. Ethan's not just a bundle of energy to be managed. He is creative and insightful, but he struggles to hold focus. She pressed, an edge creeping into her tone. Every child has their strengths and weaknesses. He shot back, frustration spilling over. Ethan may learn differently, but that doesn't make him less worthy of friendship or love. Just then, Mia chimed in. Dad says I can have a pet dinosaur when I grow up. She giggled, oblivious to the rising tension. David glanced at Mia's mother. His heart raced. He wanted her to see Ethan not as a label or a statistic, but as a joyful boy with vivid dreams. Would she let her prejudices blind her? As the conversation swayed like a pendulum, David felt his chest tighten with both determination and fear. He wanted to stand firm for his son, but the stakes felt higher in this moment. The unspoken dread hovered. What if she couldn't look past Ethan's differences? Suddenly, he thought of the cookies left untouched on the side table. The irony of sweet treats in a bitter moment struck him, and the thought lingered uneasily. Before David could speak, the doorbell rang again, and the sound sliced through the air like a knife. All eyes turned toward the door, a collective suspense spreading through the room. What new change would it bring? Would it flood warmth into the icy tension, or deepen the divide that was growing with every exchanged word among them? He hesitated, hand poised over the doorknob, anxiety flooding back. Who was it this time? Could it change everything? David's heart raced as he lifted his hand to the doorknob, uncertainty swirling thick in the air. The two children sat silently, caught in a moment that dripped with tension. He took a deep breath, willing himself to shake off the adrenaline. With a firm grip, he pulled the door open once more, ready to face whatever awaited him. Standing at the threshold was a tall figure. It was Mr. Thompson, the principal of the local elementary school. David's breath hitched. This certainly wasn't a visit he had anticipated, and the worried look on Mr. Thompson's face sent a new wave of anxiety surging through him. Mr. Thompson, what brings you here? David managed, his voice steady despite the unease settling like a storm cloud around them. I hope I'm not interrupting, Mr. Thompson said, his tone calm, but David could see the concern etched into his features. I wanted to speak to you about Ethan. The mention of his son's name sliced through the room. David's mind raced with fear from previous meetings. Had Ethan caused trouble again? Was he in trouble? Is he all right? David asked, panic creeping into his voice. He's fine, Mr. Thompson assured him quickly. Here, I just wanted to discuss a potential opportunity. David's instinct to protect flipped on, and he noticed the shift in Mia's mother's expression, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. What opportunity? David pressed, heart thumping in his chest. Ethan has a unique way of thinking that has caught the attention of a special program. We're developing a mentorship designed to nurture creative minds, Mr. Thompson explained, his eyes shining. I'd like to invite him to participate. David blinked, caught off guard. For a moment, confusion battled excitement within him. A mentorship? Yes, Mr. Thompson continued. It's a chance for kids like Ethan to collaborate with local artists and entrepreneurs. It could be a wonderful outlet for his creativity. Before David could respond, Mia's mother interjected, skepticism lacing her voice. But does he really have what it takes? This kind of program isn't for everyone. Mia, caught in the beginning of the conversation, whispered to Ethan, what is creativity? David felt a rush of anger bubble up. Who was Mia's mother to question his son's potential? Ethan has so much to offer. If he gets this chance, it could change everything for him. Mr. Thompson nodded, sensing the rising tension. I've seen Ethan in action. He is a bright kid. He thinks outside the box in ways that can inspire others. David's heart swelled with pride, yet the mask of worry loomed heavy. Would Mia's mother ever understand? Would she dare recognize Ethan's brilliance instead of his challenges? I appreciate the opportunity, David said finally, trying to manage the emotion swelling within him. But I'll need to talk to Ethan first. Of course, Mr. Thompson replied, stepping back slightly. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Let me know what you think. With that, he took his leave, but not before giving a reassuring nod toward the two kids still sitting quietly. What do you think? David asked, turning to Ethan, who looked wide-eyed. Can I use crayons? They help me think. He exclaimed with enthusiasm, oblivious to the ongoing tension between the adults. David couldn't help but smile. Absolutely. In fact, you can use every color in the box. Mia giggled, her earlier anxiety fading. Then it's like a rainbow dinosaur. But the weight of the conversation lingered. How would Mia's mother react when he told her about the program? What would she decide about her daughter's relationship with Ethan now? As they continued discussing the idea of a pet dinosaur, David felt both hope and dread swirling in his heart. Could this mentorship really be the breakthrough they'd all been waiting for? Before he could get lost in the possibilities, the doorbell rang again, pulling him back to the moment. The air thickened once more. What awaited them this time? Could it be another visitor, another twist in this unfolding story? David's gut churned as he walked to the door, burdened by an avalanche of uncertainty. Each ring of the doorbell sent a shiver down his spine. Was it another difficult conversation? Another judgment? Or something elaborate? He steeled himself, ready to confront whatever truths awaited him on the other side that he swung the door wide open. Surprise flooded through him like sunlight breaking through the clouds. It was Mia's mother, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a small group, a mix of parents and children, all wearing smiles that radiated warmth. David, I hope we weren't interrupting, she said, her tone cheerful yet cautious, as if carefully measuring each word. The collective enthusiasm fizzled around them, but held a gleam of something unexpected. David blinked in confusion. Oh, no, not at all, David managed, his heart racing. What is going on? One of the parents stepped forward, a friendly woman with bright eyes. We heard about the mentorship program, and we couldn't be more excited. Our kids were thrilled to hear about it, too. Behind her, several children shifted, nodding in agreement. Mia went wide-eyed, glancing excitedly at Ethan. Remember how you always wanted to do something with dinosaurs, right? Mia encouraged, her voice bubbling over with enthusiasm. David felt a warm glow spread across his chest as he caught the spark of connection. Suddenly, doubts began to melt away like snow beneath the sun. Yes, I love dinosaurs, Ethan exclaimed, hands sweeping through the air, summoning his favorite creatures into existence. Mia's mother smiled brightly, but a shadow still lingered. We wanted to invite you all to a community meeting next week. It'll be focused on understanding differences in kids, like Ethan, and we would love for you to join us. It's a chance for parents to share their experiences and for children to connect without barriers. Like a rush of fresh air, hope filled the room. David could hardly believe what was unfurling. A community meeting? That's incredible, he said, his voice tinged with astonishment. Are you sure this is about inclusivity? Absolutely. The friendly woman chimed in again. As parents, we realize we need to foster environments where everyone feels accepted. And kids, really, they just want to be friends. Mia turned to Ethan, her eyes sparkling. Do you want to go? We can be the coolest dinosaur buddies. Ethan nodded, bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet. Yes, we can make it a great big dino party. David's heart soared as the excitement mingled with his relief. This wasn't just a chance for Ethan, it was a chance for community support, bridging those unseen gaps. We would love to join you, he said, feeling lightheaded with gratitude. Mia's mother beamed, her earlier cautious tone replaced by open encouragement. We think you and Ethan are already doing wonderfully. It's important for us to support one another in this journey. The group began chatting animatedly, filled with laughter and exchange of ideas. David glanced over at Mia and Ethan, their bond growing stronger as they delved into fierce discussions about dinosaurs and their imaginary adventures. The authenticity of their connection warmed him as the laughter and the simple joy of the moment unfolded. David felt like the weight he had been carrying for so long began to lift. He turned back to the adults, now united in a mission to foster acceptance. Mia's mother looked at David, sincerity emanating from her gaze. It's time to see their beautiful souls instead of just their labels. Yes, David found himself saying with deep conviction, "This is what we needed all along, more understanding and less judgment. For all our kids. At the end of the day, they just want a friends." "Exactly," she exclaimed. They were aligned. Two parents united in their desire to create a better world for their children. They shared stories. Laughter filled the air, weaving through the fabric of their growing kinship. They stood together, forging connections of courageous understanding and acceptance, each unique child now able to flourish like the very dinosaurs they so adored. Looking around, David realized once and for all that fear, judgment, and isolation were not the only paths available. They could choose light, acceptance, and friendship for their children. He didn't know what challenges were still lurking ahead, but he realized they would face them together as a united community. David glanced back at Ethan and Mia. The wide smiles on their faces shone like the sun breaking through a cloudy sky, illuminating their innocence, joy, and newfound connection. A whole world with possibilities around them. And maybe, just maybe, it was finally time for David to breathe fully again. That if you've been captivated by this journey of connection, transformation, and hope, then it's time for you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and let us spread this message far and wide. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your words matter to us. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second, to share this message. Your actions can create a wave of love and acceptance.